In this video, let's talk about how to perfectly keep track of your reading. So let's go over to Excel and look at the Excel sheet that I use to keep track of the books that I have read, the books that I want to read, and my favorite books that I want to review every so often because they're the most important to me at this point in shaping my mind and how I do things. So here we are in Excel looking at an Excel sheet that I made called 2015 reading. So let me point out the things that are important about this that I want you to do as well. So first of all, I have on the top my goal for the year, just to remind me what it is that I want to do this year and why I'm keeping track of this sheet and updating it every single day. So I have here on the top, read 300 books this year. So then every day when I read a book, let's say today I read Think and Grow Rich. So I will write that in there and I'll just put the date. Let's say it's the 1st of January, so I'll just put 1/1. And then the next day I'll put another book. Let's say it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I'll put it there. So I keep track of my books that way that I read. And every 7 days, I like to review the 7 books that I read the last week. Just to keep it fresh, just to remind myself of the things that I really liked about it or the ideas that I want to take and apply. So that's what I do. And then another thing that I like to do is over here, anytime I hear about a book, whether I'm listening to a podcast or reading a blog, or even one of my friends makes a recommendation, first of all, I usually buy it right on the spot because I want the book and I don't want to forget about it. And I want to be able to read it as soon as possible if I don't have too many books in this category. But any book idea that I have, I'll write it here. So let's say someone told me about a really great book called The Score Takes Care of Itself. So I'll write that there. Let's say I read another blog post and it was about the book Made to Stick. So I'll write that there. And this way I can keep track of the books that I want to read that I haven't read yet, that I still need to buy or maybe I have but I just haven't read yet. But that way I don't have to think too much about, okay, I finished this book, what's next? And by the way, something else that I do as part of my quote-unquote ritual is every night, the night before, I take out the book that I plan on reading the next morning and I put it on my desk so that when it's time to read, I don't have to spend the beginning of my day deciding what to read. I already have it set. And there's one more thing I want to point out about this is I have a list of my favorite books. So anytime I read a book that really has a huge impact on me, I write it in this category. And I want this category to be anywhere from 25 to maybe 100 books. Just the books that I want to review over and over, that I want to get to know so well over the years that they literally become ingrained into my mind. Because you see, books are tools and you can't just think that you're going to read it once and you've got it forever. It's like Peter Drucker says. He says that knowledge must be constantly improved or it vanishes. And that's why I want to make sure that the knowledge that I want to keep in my mind, I want to always keep refreshing it and building on it. So anytime I read a book that I really like and is one of my favorites, I will add it to this category just to make sure that any downtime I get, or maybe even for a book of the day or whatever, I will come and review those books, or at least review my notes for those books. And I take notes in such a way, which we'll go over in a little bit in this course, that I can review any book that I like in maybe 20 minutes. So I want to make sure that I set time aside, whether it's 20 minutes or whatever I need, to review my favorite books so that they stay on my mind and that they can become a part of my life. So I'll write all my favorite books here. Let's say it's Psycho-Cybernetics or whatever. Anytime I have a favorite book, I'll write it in this category. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. This has been really useful for me to organize all my reading and keep track of it. And also, it helps me stay motivated to keep reading. It's like Jerry Seinfeld said. Jerry Seinfeld, he wanted to spend an entire year every day writing jokes. He wanted to make it a habit. So what he did is he printed out a calendar for the entire year, and a huge calendar, and he posted it on his wall. And every day when he'd spend time to write, he would cross that day off on the calendar. And pretty soon you build a chain. Not only do you have a ritual at this point that you're doing it, but you also have the motivation because you don't want to break that chain. So when you start building on this Excel sheet and you see that you've read maybe 30 or 40 books already, first of all, you start feeling really good because you realize that you've already read more books in a month than most people read in the next 2 or 3 years. That's got to feel pretty good. But more importantly, you keep that motivation going because progress makes you feel motivated. And once you build that chain, you won't want to miss a day. You want to keep it going and building that chain. So another little cool trick about this that you can use. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Now let's move on to what to read. So now you know how to organize it. Let's talk about now what to read specifically. And lastly, I've included a blank version of this Excel sheet where you can download and start using in the resources section of this video. So go ahead and download it and you can start keeping track of your reading this year.